Hi, and welcome back to Museum at Home. Now today we are heading back to the Middle Ages, the medieval period, and we're going to explore a fascinating object that was made in Italy. Now take a look at this artefact. Isn't it just beautiful? But what could it be? Let's use our key question words to try and work out what it might be. So what? What is it? What shape is it? Is it flat or is it three-dimensional? What shapes can we see and what colours? What is it made of? What material is it? Does it open? How about why? Why was it made? What purpose does it have? Why is it so beautifully made? Was it to show off or to use, or perhaps both? Who? Who would have made this object? What sort of a craftsperson? And who would have owned it? Who would have bought it? When? When was it made? And finally, how? How was it crafted? What kinds of tools would have been used to make this beautiful object? Well, let's start with what. What is it? Well, look at the shape of the object. It's a box, a three-dimensional rectangle. And if you look very carefully at the front, what can you see? It's something that could be a lock or perhaps a clasp. So we can guess that this is a box with a lid that can open to reveal something inside. But what could that be? Now take a look at the lid. What shapes can you see on the top? Now there are black and white lines with diamond shapes in the middle, and on the side you can see those diamond patterns repeated again. Now we call these shapes lozenges, and if you look really carefully at the lozenges, you'll see that inside each one there's another shape, and it's a circle with lines inside it. Now we call that particular design a pinwheel, and it looks a bit like a shape that reminds us of a type of fireworks spinning around and around. But this box has a bit of a secret. It's not just decorated on one side. Let's have a look underneath, because there is something very important to be found there. What can you see? Well, the underneath has a really distinctive pattern as well. What shapes is this pattern made up from? Well, it's black and white squares, alternating all over the base of the box. Now, this side, these black and white squares, might be the biggest clue that we have as to what this box might have been used for. Where might we find alternating black and white squares? Think really carefully. There's one particular place that I am thinking of, and that is on a chessboard. Now, to play chess, you move your pieces over a checkerboard pattern and you capture your opponent's pieces in order to win the game. And chess is an incredibly popular game even today. And that's exactly what this box reminds us of, a chessboard. So, have you guessed what this box could be? Well, it's a game box, a set of games which could be carried around with you when you travelled, so you'd have something to occupy yourself with. And this particular game box was made around 700 years ago. On one side it has a backgammon board. Backgammon is one of the oldest board games in the world, and it's been played for around 5,000 years in some way, shape or form. And in backgammon, two players must move their counters between the triangles, and the winner of the game is the first player to get all of their 15 counters off the board. Now chess, which is the board on the other side of the box, well, that would be played on that side and is another very, very old two-player game, the aim of which is to move pieces around the board and to capture your opponent's king. That move is called the checkmate, and we often hear that phrase, the checkmate, in normal life, but it comes from this phrase in the game of chess. But this is no ordinary game box. Look how beautifully it has been crafted. So what material do you think that it could be made from? Well, it's a combination of white parts made from bone and ivory and darker parts made from wood, probably the wood from walnut trees. Now, all of these materials have been shaped by an artist to create the box. Ivory was a very popular material, but a cruel material, because ivory is the hard white material which is often taken from the tusks of elephants. But many years ago, it was used a lot. It was a very popular material to use for making decorations, and craftsmen could use it in flat pieces or could shape it and carve it into figures and decorations too. So, whoever owned this box was certainly rich enough to have this expensive game box made. But games like chess and backgammon weren't only for the wealthy. Board games, in fact, were actually enjoyed by everybody. And we can still find game boards in the strangest of places. Sometimes we can come across game boards scratched into medieval tables, or in the stone floors of castles, in guard towers, or even in cathedrals. We can find them all over the place because people use them. So people would play games to entertain themselves, and there were lots of games to choose from. The game called the Goose was a little bit like our modern day snakes and ladders. The game where you roll a dice, and depending on what square you land on, you might go forward or backward along the board. And the winner is the first player to reach the final square. Or if you were looking for a game which was a little bit more skillful and involved less luck and more thinking and logic, then the game for you could be Nine Men's Morris. And that was a game of, well, strategy, a game that goes all the way back to the Roman Empire. And in that game, players would move their 9 pieces, their 9 counters, around a board, and they would try to reduce their opponent's pieces down to just 2. So, games like these have played a really important role in human life for thousands of years, and it's been a way for humans to entertain ourselves. And this game box that we've looked at today is particularly special. Not only does it give its owner 2 different games and a handy way of transporting them as well, but the box is also a perfect place for storing the game pieces and the counters. And when you open it, you can see exactly where those counters would have been kept. Now, if you've enjoyed this topic of medieval games, then head to the resource pack, which you can find in the link underneath this YouTube video, or you can also find it by heading over to the Museum at Home website. I hope you've enjoyed this topic as much as I have. Now, as you all know, we are coming up to the summer holidays, and I'm sure you're all really excited to get cracking with your holidays. So it's time for me to say farewell as we come to the end of this series of Museum at Home videos, just in time for the summer. Now, I hope that you have a really excellent summer and that you've enjoyed learning through lockdown with me in Museum at home. If you've any feedback or comments that you'd like to make or to pass on, then do so using the email address on the screen now. But for now, thank you for joining with me at Museum at Home.